My first impression of the piece was how beautiful it was, and also how structurally interesting and harmonically interesting and rhythmically interesting on every level to me.
To play something by someone I've never heard of from like more than 100 years ago, that is a legit piece of music, is really eye-opening. It makes me think, like, what are we missing from that time? Because this is very different from the other stuff from that time.
It's just really, really familiar music, but different.
Leokadiya Kashperova was a Russian composer. She was born in 1872, so we celebrate her 150th anniversary this year. She was well known throughout Russia and Europe as a well-respected pianist and composer. The work that we're performing, her Symphony in B minor, was written in 1904, so she was about 32 then, at the height of her creative powers. Afterwards, her music was really forgotten in Russia and outside of Russia, and it's only now that we're being reintroduced to it. As you know, this is the North American premiere and South America. I mean, it's the whole Western Hemisphere premiere. She is most famous for being Stravinsky's piano teacher. And if you've seen his piano music, she has a lot to answer for. I want to start by diving right in. You may hear a lot of influences, but it's definitely her, and let's get going. The New York Repertory Orchestra, or NYRO, is performing for the first time in the United States the new critical edition of the Symphony in B minor.
I like NYRO because we play a lot of different stuff. We don't play your standard things. We play a lot of new things. We play stuff that no one's heard before.
Things that our audience doesn't know, things that our players don't know. And that's the mission of our orchestra, really, is to do these more unknown but deserving to be heard pieces. I first heard about the symphony from one of the members of our orchestra. I often ask our orchestra members if they have any desires for pieces that they like to play, any suggestions of works. And I just fell in love with it almost immediately. It seemed like a wonderful piece.
There's something that unites all those Russian composers, Tchaikovsky, Stravinsky, Prokofiev, Kashperova. Just they have such a rich history of folk music that it's just really in its cells is Russian. You sort of get where Stravinsky sort of picked up on whatever he could from her.
Very nutcracker, no? Nice, good. Nice, really, really great reading. There are 4 movements to the symphony. The first movement and the last movement are these very monumental movements. They're almost epic in scope. And between them, she hangs a very charming scherzo and an extremely expressive and moving slow movement. As we rehearsed the piece, it became clear that some of the issues we needed to focus on most were real attention to rhythmic precision. Her rhythm is extremely precise and specific, so we spent a lot of time working on the rhythmic aspect of the piece, not only articulation, but lengths of notes and how they fit in with how all the instruments fit in together. The first movement has a very strong dotted rhythm that carries throughout, and to get those really exact took time.
It's a very challenging work. It's not easy at all. And so a good performance really boils down to a few qualities. One of the biggest ones is good rhythm. And it's a rhythmic piece in certain sections. And if you sort of approximate the rhythm, then it loses its intention.
Sorry, I tried to get us back. Ya da da dee da 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 dee da da. It has to be exactly in the right spot, otherwise we're going to lose the syncopation. The measure after I with the pickup. Bum bum. It's more important to articulate clearly than to play loud. Pick up to the measure after I. 1 and. The other thing that we spent a lot of time on were the dynamics. She's very clear in how she wants the dynamics to work and how they create the balance between foreground music and background music. And because this was a new piece for us, it wasn't clear at first reading what is a foreground and what is a background. So we spent a lot of time working on balance of foreground music, because it's not only one thing that's in the foreground, there might be one or two things, and also background. Winds, those are not solos. Come on, violas. Play out. Join the first. Of all the movements, my favorite is probably the third movement, the slow movement. It's this very broad, noble, beautifully moving movement that uses several themes, very simple sounding, that build and build to a series of climaxes that are just, they just sweep you along.
Some of my favorite moments in all music have to do with how material we've already heard is brought back again. Specifically in the fourth movement, what she does with the slower tempo towards the end, bringing back that melody for one last time, with everyone playing and we're doing tremolos and going crazy. It's a really momentous moment, and it really ties the whole symphony together, because you sometimes can think, oh, that just happens at the beginning or it just happens there, but no, it comes back and it really ties it together. So for me, it's the ending of the entire symphony, I think, is just a really fun part.
So it's a completely unique, magical, romantic piece, and I'm really having a great time playing it.
Feels a little treacherous, at least in this third movement. But the first movement sits really nicely on the horn, actually.
I love it. I'm surprised that it hasn't been played to death over the years.
It's very lush. It's very lush and beautiful and rich and layered.
The sad truth is that there's probably 100 other composers that aren't Kashperova that we haven't heard. There's room to do these great works, and I think there's an audience for it. I think audiences want to hear something new, and we get both things. We get familiar, new-sounding music, and I think that's quite exciting.
I know that for me, working on this piece has been very exciting. I've uncovered new things in every rehearsal. Every day that I work on the piece, I discover something new and wonderful. And I think the orchestra has felt that same experience of discovery every time, because it is new for them, new for all of us. And I'm hoping to be able to perform it again in the future at some point, because I want more experience of this piece. I want to be able to really learn more about it and dig into it even more than just our performance will give.